Hey, and what's up, movie viewers? Dena Movie Views here, asking, what are you watching? Well, today I am watching Judas and the Black Messiah. This movie stars Daniel Kaluuya as Fred Hampton, chairman of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party, and Lakeith Stanfield as the informant, William O'Neill, who is the infamous FBI informant that infiltrated, deceived, and aided in the setup and murder of Fred Hampton. Another actress by the name of Dominique Fishback is also in this movie in the role of Deborah Johnson. And Deborah Johnson is Fred Hampton's girlfriend and the mother of his child. And I think she is a very good actress. I remember her in another movie that I am reviewing with Jamie Foxx, and I can see great things coming from this actress. Now, this film is directed and produced by Shaka King, who wrote the screenplay with Will Burson based on a story by Kenny and Keith Lucas. Now, Judas and the Black Messiah movie is supposed to be an attempt to tell a story from the inside, and is said to be inspired by true events. Now, what's true to you and me may not be true to others, so we'll take it as it is given. It opens with a reporter that is doing an interview, and the interview is for a documentary called Eyes on the Prize, and I remember seeing that on PBS. Now, this documentary took place March 2nd, 1989, and in this is an interview. So the reporter is asking the infiltrator, whose actual name is O'Neill. He begins by asking the question: looking back on your activities in the late 60s, early 70s, what would you tell your sons about what you did then? At that point, it begins the footage of the movie, and it actually shows black people protesting and white police harassing them as they are protesting. Now, I like the opening because I hear children and I see children that are being taught their history. And one of the posters says, there's a picture of Huey P. Newton, and there is a teacher who is a Black Panther that she's actually teaching the children about him and what it is that the Panthers do for the Black community. And while she's teaching, the background music is "Revolution is the Only Solution." It's being played. Now, the Black Panther organization provided various services to the Black community that were very helpful and much needed at that time. Services included a free medical clinic, liberation and training schools, free legal aid. They offered free breakfast for children, and they aided in setting up an armed patrol for the Black community to protect Black people from police harassment. Now, there was one particular scene in the opening of this movie where Edgar Hoover, the first director of the FBI at that time, and this character is played by Martin Sheen. He is speaking to several agents, and it has a teleprompter with a video of Fred Hampton being played. And while he's standing there with him in the background on the screen, he's saying to what appears to be a class of agents, FBI agents, he says, as he's giving a lecture, he letting them know, and he's giving them marching orders. So he said that their objective is to prevent the rise of the Black Messiah. And he names and shows one Frederick L. Hampton as their next target. He is letting them know that they must help to prevent such an effort from coming into existence. And he said, and I quote, "The Black Panthers are the single greatest threat for our national security, more than the Chinese, even more than the Russians. Our counterintelligence programs must prevent the rise of the Black Messiah from among their ministry, one with the potential to unite the communists, the anti-war, and the New Left movement. As I said, he identified Fred Hampton as that individual that they must target. Now, this took place in Chicago in 1968. William O'Neill, who would eventually be the infiltrator of the Black Panthers, was recruited because he would pretend to be an FBI agent to steal fancy, expensive cars from people in the hood. Because when the movie is open, it actually shows him pretending to be an FBI agent with the fake badge, and he has the long coat, and he goes into this bar. And this is a spoiler. I'm not going to give all of it. I'm going to give this because I thought this was kind of funny and serious at the same time. But he goes into a bar to pretend to find violations, and like he's searching criminals, and he's throwing his badge and throwing his weight, and kind of got people scared or afraid of him. And he even holds some guy down, talking about threatens to take him in, and it's all in an effort to steal this car that he likes and wants. This was his hustle. And but in this bar, they realize that he's fake, and they start to chase him. And he gets in the car, and he eventually thinks he's gotten away. They give chase, but he thinks he's gotten away, and he's kind of ha-ha-haing to himself until he sees police lights behind him in that stolen car. And in the next scene, he's seen bleeding at the police station. But it was at this point that he was approached by an Agent Mitchell of the FBI, who would be the one that asked him to infiltrate the Black Panthers. He began by asking him, and I thought these were some things that would be typical or something we would expect to be used to cause people to infiltrate or attempt to turn on their own. But he began by asking him, was he upset when Dr. King was murdered? And he replied he didn't know. Then he asked him the same question in regards to Malcolm X. He said he never thought about it. The agent then told him he was looking at about 18 months for the stolen car and 5 years for impersonating an FBI officer. Or he could go home. And this was his bargaining tool. As we know, he chose to become a Black Panther in order to give them the information that they needed. And he was supposed to learn every aspect of the Black Panther Party and give the information about Fred Hampton back to FBI. But he began to, O'Neill was used to observe and report back to him about Fred Hampton's whereabouts and what they were planning or doing in the Black Panther Party. This meant that O'Neill would have to attend meetings, events in order to get closer to the chairman at that time. Now, on one particular occasion, he was in a class that Fred Hampton was teaching, but O'Neill was more interested in a female student, and he got caught and called out by Hampton, and he asked him to stand because he was trying to flirt with a sister. But anyway, he ended up doing sit-ups because of his not doing as he should and not paying attention in class, because it seems they were very structured at that time. Now, he went back to the FBI after that experience, and he felt that he was being tortured by them. And the FBI agent reminded him that he could just simply go to jail. And he said, what can Uncle Sam do to help you get closer to Fred? And the infiltrator replied that a car would be a good option because Fred doesn't drive because the police would hassle him and stop him so much. So they provided him with a car so that he could take Fred Hampton into anywhere he needed to go. And this was a way for him to get closer to him. So they fixed him up with the car, and he used this car. And he did, in fact, get closer to him. It proved to be very effective. Now, in one incident when he was driving Fred Hampton and a couple of other Panthers, Fred requested that they all give him their guns, their weapons, and he confiscated them and put them in the glove compartment of his vehicle. And then they went into this pool hall, and at this pool hall, they indicated that the Crowns, which I assume was a gang, this was a place that they frequent and they use. But Fred and other members of the Black Panther got out unarmed and went into this pool hall. He said he went to this pool hall to get their attention. Now he walks into the pool hall and he's telling them about all the Black Panther Party community services offered to the public, and he's inviting them to attend and to bring their children, and he's telling them about the educational classes, and some are clearly reluctant to take the flyer that he's passing out, and they're looking, some of them got an aggressive look, some of them were just ignoring him completely. He was then abruptly confronted by a brother who said, "Do you know where you are, MF?" and he reminded him that he is in Crown's territory. And Fred replied, and he was so respectful, but he was manly about it. He said, "We don't want no trouble. We just passing through. We don't want trouble." And Fred began to tell him about the party and was interrupted by one of the Crowns, who said he wasn't trying to hear all of that. He said, "Don't lecture me on politics," because Crowns protected Martin Luther King in '68. But this quickly escalated because the agent O'Neill had this pool stick. And one of the people recognized him. And anyway, he grabbed the pool stick and they drew their guns, the Crowns did. But Fred Hampton kept this cool because he understood his mission. And he said, "There is no need for that, brother. We'll be on our way." But he then said to the member of the Crown that he got a message for the big man, the head of the Panthers, that he wanted to sit down with him. And he told him, "Imagine what we could do if we were to work together," as they walked out of the pool hall. So he sent a message with his attendants, and I thought that was cool. But he said, "Imagine the Panthers, the Crown's disciples, fighting under one revolutionary army." And that's a powerful thing if you think about it. Now, Fred Hampton had this accent. I know that Daniel, the person that played him, has a accent because he's Britain, but I didn't know Fred had such an accent. He did. When I look back at some of the footage of him speaking, he had an accent. So I have to give the actor props on that. But Fred Hampton also took it upon himself to go visit what we would refer to as the poor white trash in America. He went to have a meeting with this guy, this Caucasian guy they call Preacher Man. And when he went there, it was full of a lot of redneck or white trash people, as we would say. And this group, I later understood, was referred to as the Young Patriots. But Fred Hampton went there. Then he went to the Young Lords, or Puerto Rican Latinos, with the same messages. And he was planning an alliance with the so-called downtrodden of America, in an attempt to unite. And I was thinking, man, that's powerful, if in fact it could have happened. Now, this was immediately reported back to the FBI. And their thing were Puerto Ricans and rednecks in Chicago. I think this is the thing that caused them to fear what he is capable of if this could have worked. But it showed them all in a rally. The Caucasian rednecks or patriots, and the Black Panthers, and these Puerto Rican people. They were all there in a grouping. They were standing side by side with a mission. Now, the film then goes back to the interviewer for Eyes on the Prize. And the interviewer asked the agent William O'Neill, "What made you think you could trust FBI agent Roy Mitchell?" And he replied, "I rode around in his car and had dinner with him at his dinner table. And at one point, he became my role model." I'm like, oh my God. But anyway, I think he had convinced himself of that. He said he didn't have lots of role models. I would challenge that, but to each his own. But he was in a conversation with the FBI agent in the movie, and O'Neill told him, don't be fooled by Fred Hampton, because what he did, it was really inspiring, what he was doing. And he went on to tell him a story about a Klan murder in Mississippi, 1964. He said it involved a dirty sheriff that arrested a couple of kids trying to register blacks to vote. And he talked about how this crooked deputy sheriff arrested them on bogus charges. After he arrested them, what he did, he handcuffed them and delivered them directly to the KKK. And he said they burned them and cut off one guy's penis and put it in his mouth, which is something that our people experienced and had to deal with. And that alone, that thought in that story was thought-provoking. Now, these were, as he said, just a couple of kids that were trying to register people to vote. And they did this. That's ridiculous. That was something to think about. Now, he said what he was doing was the other side of the coin, because the agent is trying to tell O'Neill that Hampton and the Panthers are like the Klan and that they're one and the same. Now, their aim, he said, is to sow hatred and inspire terror, plain and simple. He went on to say that he's for civil rights, but you can't cheat your way to equality, and you certainly cannot shoot your way to it. These are words that the FBI agent is telling him. I guess it's to encourage him to keep doing what he's doing. But O'Neill shook his head in agreement with that nonsense. Now, he asked about money. The agent was shown, the infiltrator was shown asking about money. He wanted money for what he was doing. And he said, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. So the FBI agent asked him, they actually came up with this, they showed them doing a flyer. And on this flyer, they were saying insulting things about the crowns, and they went and dumped it in their area to imply that it came from the Black Panthers in an effort to cause confusion and fighting amongst them. So as Fred went to have a sit-down convocation with the leaders of the Crown, he produced this fake flyer and he began to read it. And he implied that Fred put it there, or the Panthers did it. And Fred was like, come on, you know who done this. It was the FBI. And the Crown leader said, FBI don't write. I just thought that was funny that he said that. But little did he know, they actually did write it. And they actually were behind this flyer that was meant to insult their group and cause confusion among them. But the car thief at that time was recognized by one of the members of the Crown. And this was a scary part. And he was about to step to him, and another man blocked him and put him back in place and made him fall into ranks so there wouldn't be any disturbance. But that was a heated moment, and I'm not going to tell all the details of that. You'll have to watch the movie for that part. But afterwards, two of the Panthers, a female and a male, they asked him about the accusations. And I was thinking at that point, if they would have followed their instinct, this could have been stopped, and perhaps Fred Hampton would be alive today. But they gave him an opportunity to present his side about the accusations. That was amazing scene for me. I won't give all the spoilers for that. But they accepted his explanation and trusted him to the point that he was allowed to be the leader of Fred Hampton's security squad. Big mistake. Now, this is the same FBI informant who drew up the floor plan of the Panthers' headquarters and the apartment layout of Chairman Fred Hampton, his personal dwelling. Now, I have to give this movie a 3 out of 5 stars. And the reason I chose 3 stars is because I felt it left out a lot of details of his upbringing, how he became who he was. I would like to have known more about his parents, his beliefs, what made him become a part of the Panthers, and what influenced him, his choices, his ideas, what shaped him. I felt like that it kind of jumped into just the middle of it and didn't give a good lead up. Now, this movie made me reflect on our own struggle here in America. Not only freedom fighter Fred Hampton's life, but the life of many of our black people who have spoken up, got up, and attempted to liberate the descendants of enslaved black people from tyranny and oppression here in America. And they have paid the ultimate cost, the ultimate price for standing up on behalf of black people. And this movie, it really was an opportunity to reflect on our struggles here in America. And when I was watching this movie, these words, the words that Thomas Jefferson spoke, entered my head. And he said, and I quote, "I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just, that his justice cannot sleep forever." And these are some true words. I believe this. And I was reminded of this when I was watching this movie, because our black people's lives have been snatched away and absolutely nothing is done about it. And not to mention the ever-present and high number of our own people who have sided with the enemy to our liberation to assist in our own annihilation. It always astonishes me how so many black people are willingly able to aid in the death and the destruction of their own people. How do you live with yourself? And it seems to be about acceptance. They want acknowledgement, and they're just basically greedy. That seems to be at the root of it. It's shameful how some of us can assist in the murder of our own. We betray our people, our leaders. And I wonder, is there a second thought or even concern for the effects it has on our future generations yet to be born? And this, to me, exemplifies a true penitentiary of the black mind that we must redevelop. Now, we can never expect justice or peace for this world. I don't believe we can expect true justice or true peace until black people, and specifically descendants of enslaved original people of this earth, are given reparations and develop their freedom, justice, and equality. It has to be done by us. Now, in spite of what we're dealing with, this movie really makes you think. It brings out emotions. It does. And what is bothersome to me is that this was a very young black man, very wise, smart man, and a man that loved his people. And I cannot help but wonder if his life was not cut off so abruptly at such a young age what it is that he could have accomplished. And then I wonder, what was the real fear from the government of this young man? I don't see or quite understand how there has been any justice or real accountability served to the directors, infiltrators, and coordinators of his death, the many deaths of black men, black women, and black children in our fight for liberation. So there is a lot yet that we have not done, discovered. It's like to be continued, because there's more to this. It's still our legacy, our history is still being written. Now, with this movie, I felt like the costumes, the hairstyles, and props were acceptable. Yet I kind of felt like it was some of the incidents were kind of glossed over a bit. I wanted more details of this young warrior. I really did. But that's just me. Now, if you would like to watch Judas and the Messiah, it is playing in movie theaters, and now it is streaming on HBO Max. You can watch it at any time. This has been Dena Movie Views. Like, share, and comment. And remember, it's my view. Now, what are you watching?